I'm John Sipher.
And I'm Jerry O'Shea.
Between us, we have over 60 years of experience as clandestine officers in the CIA, serving in high-risk areas all around the world.
Part of our job was creating conspiracies, like being undercover, to deceive our adversaries.
Now, we're going to use that experience to investigate the conspiracy theories everyone's talking about, as well as some you may not have heard.
Could these be true, or are we being manipulated?
Find out now on Mission Implausible.
So, Michael Ian Black is a comedian, actor, writer, and a keen observer of the absurd and American culture, which painfully is these days one and the same. And you're a repeat offender on Mission Implausible.
Yes, I am.
Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start off, though, with on a more serious vein, on one of your more serious works as an author, one of the classics you've written, A Pig Parade is a Terrible Idea, from 2010, as I'm sure everybody has read it. And in A Pig Parade is a Terrible Idea, you claim that while people can be convinced that a pig parade might sound like a great idea, it just isn't in practice. That
That's right.
Pigs have no idea how to organize a parade or implement tariffs or military alliances or maintain constitutional norms. And Michael, I just want to know, seeing as this is a conspiracy theory show, I would like you to comment on the conspiracy going around that I just created, that you wrote this book with George Soros in order to corrode the integrity of this administration. So
that's right.
I was wondering if you could take us through a pig parade is a terrible idea.
About 13 or 14 years ago, I teamed up with George Soros to write an anti-second Trump administration book. And the pigs are a metaphor for capitalists. You think it's going to be great. You know, you're going to throw open the doors.
Yeah.
Right. And then what are they going to do? They're going to snuffle all over everything. They're going to eat more food than is their share. They're going to be destructive. They're going to be sloppy. And at the end of it, who's cleaning up the mess? Us, the proletariat.
That's a good point. And it fits. On top of that, there is going to be a parade, we're told, in just recent days, that President Trump is going to hold a military parade like he wanted to do in his first term, which happens to be on his birthday. So a pig parade will.
Coincidence.
Yeah. All comes together.
He's an asshole. Can we just make
What do you mean? I think you should stop sauce peddling this stuff and just say what you think.
The hell's sauce peddling?
Soft pedal.
Has the United States ever held an official military parade? We must have, right? At some point. I'm not saying that outside of wartime, when we're sort of we're not bringing back soldiers from the Gulf or something like that. But have we ever just had, for the hell of it, a military parade?
I think the military is usually against that type of thing. I mean, there's been times, like when President Kennedy died and there was a caisson with some military, there's ceremonial times, but I don't think we've ever had one like he wants, that apparently he saw a military parade in France and said, we need to have that with tanks and everything. And so
they didn't want to do it because the tanks were going to chew up Pennsylvania Avenue and like the tarmac.
They also didn't want to do it because it's not how we want to represent ourselves as a purely martial power. But now that we have reduced and or eliminated all of our soft power, why not just have Pershing missiles flying down Constitution Avenue? Why not?
Pete Hegseth doing push-ups on the top of a Bradley fighting vehicle on the way down them.
Don Bongino and his personal Praetorian, is that what it is? Praetorian Guard?
Praetorian
Guard, yeah. Go back to Roman times.
Apparently he's the first deputy of the FBI who has to have a security detail, because normally FBI agents are trained and can carry guns, and he is not. And so he has to have a security guard contingent.
He's not trained to carry a gun, or he's not allowed to have a gun because of things in his past?
I didn't read deep enough into the article I saw on this, so
But he was a Secret Service agent, right? So he should be trained on firearms.
Yeah, but was he? That's a good point. But I don't know if he was a Secret Service agent, meaning he actually was defending the president, or was he like a back office guy that was,
No, I think you've missed it, John. They're going to get Mel Gibson to be his bodyguard, right? It's like
that's a good idea.
now that Mel's got his gun after beating the shit out
I'm
of
gonna
him.
look up Dan Bongino while you guys talk.
Yeah. So I did have a question about conspiracies in the U.S. government and your background as a poker player, right? I never want to play poker with you. You've won, you're a pro. You've won a lot of awards and competitions, and so we're involved in like the biggest fucking poker game ever, right? With this right now, at least economically, with these tariffs, right? It's like, so do you think, just looking at, like, you don't see the cards, but you see all the players. Do you think with what's going on now that they have like a plan? Like they know they've got three ace, they've got a full house in their hand, or is this the shill with like a pair of twos? Sort of betting that the Chinese are going to go down, or that that the Chinese are going to fold. Is he going to bluff his way through this? So, what's your sense? Do you think that
Are you setting them up for a joke here? That's pretty good.
no, I'm not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually. I'm asking a real
Said
question.
easy.
Do you think they have a plan, a conspiracy to like pull this shit off? Their 8-dimensional chess, or is this just like general fuckery? Like you've got a rube at the table.
Well, in recent weeks, what we've seen is Trump deploying and Vance deploying the poker metaphor. Remember how many times Trump has said of Ukraine, they just don't have the cards. They don't have the
That's right.
cards.
That's right.
And Vance said it about Greenland, I think. They don't have the card. I mean, they keep talking about the cards. But what your question presupposes is that they're actually that they have something in mind that they're trying to achieve. And I do have a sort of wild-eyed conspiracy theory about this very topic.
Ooh, let's hear it.
It begins, this conspiracy theory, with Trump believing in climate change. It begins with Trump, maybe during his first administration or some other time, being surrounded by advisors who say, sir, and these are big advisors, tears rolling down their faces, sir, climate change is real. Here's the data. In the next 100 years, the Southwest and some of the South of the United States is going to become less and less hospitable to human life. And Trump may have poo-pooed that. The second part of my conspiracy is the assassination attempt, which I'm saying is real. Somebody tried to kill him. And then immediately after, if you recall, everybody was saying, oh, Trump, he's a changed man. He's become more reflective. He's different now. And we all thought, those of us from a distance thought, oh, that means he's going to become kind and compassionate. I think the opposite happened. I think it made him more belligerent and hostile. And so when you combine those two things, plus the other part of the assassination attempt that I think it did get him thinking about was, I think it did get him thinking about his own mortality and thinking that he's going to be dead at some point, and what is his legacy going to be? And I don't think he necessarily considered that before that, because I think he thought of himself as immortal. Okay, you put all that together. What do you get? You get a guy thinking about his legacy who understands that the southern half of the United States over the next 100 years is going to become less and less hospitable. At the same time, up in Canada, all of that land is going to warm. All those resources are going to sort of become more available, more accessible. Up at the Arctic Circle, all of those resources are already in dispute and already sort of, contended. At the same time, you've got Greenland, where all of this is taking place, climate-wise. At the same time, you've also got demographic trends in the United States, which say that by the year 2040 something or whatever, white people are going to become the minority. We know that he has surrounded himself by white supremacists and fascists who believe that white people should be in charge of everything. What does Canada have a lot of? White people. What does Greenland have? A lot of land. What does Russia, our new ally, have a lot of? White people.
Prostitutes.
And ultra Christianity, Orthodox Christianity. So you combine all those things. And what I think my wild-eyed conspiracy is that Trump and his people are trying to position America as a superpower for the next 150 years or 200 years, which is allied with Russia as a bulwark against Russia and against Asia. And so you have this massive landmass, which is North America minus Mexico, Canada, Greenland, you've got the Arctic Circle, and then you've got our closest new ally, Russia. And what you've done is you've created a scenario where we become impregnable and incredibly formidable. That's my conspiracy theory.
That's a pig parade. That's
That's as delusional as the UFO stuff you talked to us about last time.
The conspiracy
However,
theory podcast.
what I did learn from that podcast is 99% of the American people believe the same thing, so I can't blow it off so easily. But
See?
there you
Well,
go.
why is it delusional? Don't you think that makes perfect sense? White
No,
people,
of course,
Russia, Christianity, Lebensraum.
Let me ask you this. Have you seen anything else in Trump's history in the last 25 years that makes sense? Like you're assuming like the guy can think and make a plan
sense.
more than 5 seconds ahead of the next thing that comes to his mind.
I guess what I'm saying is it's not his plan. He's just sort of instituting it, and he's being sort of led down the primrose path by Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon and the cabal of weirdos who's guiding this presidency.
right. The Heritage Foundation. I genetically just don't like conspiracy theories, but I'm gonna actually say that I think there's elements in that actually resonate with me. The thing about a legacy, I think the thing about wanting a white Christian nation, although he's hardly Christian, but not really, but yeah, the white nationalist thing. I think his whole thing of expansion and. When was the last time a president sort of went around praising William McKinley, right? I mean,
it's been a while.
I mean, I'm the only one who's read his memoirs recently, but yeah, I mean, I think there is something to that, although I suspect it's less of a cunning plan than just sort of feral instincts that come together. But I think this is an administration riven by conspiracies and conspiracy theories. I mean, look no further than Laura Loomer walks into the Oval Office and suddenly, sort of like, and sort of Madame Lafarge like, heads start to roll. And, we don't have any reason, there's no understanding why the head of the NSA was fired, and just sort of like people in national security, NSC are being fired. Like, why? Because there's a conspiracy going on to like get them. I mean,
I think
I'm not sure what it is or where it's going, and I'm not sure what the pot is other than,
I think the more pregnant question, and I use that word advisedly, is why is Trump listening to Laura Loomer? Why is she always in and out of his orbit of all people? Like, she's such a weirdo. Everybody around him hates her. They all try to keep them apart. And the question is, why? Why does she have his ear? And I think that's an interesting question.
Well, does she have just his ear?
Well, I made
the only part
much of an illusion.
I'm just asking for a friend, right? I mean, Melania has his. I don't know if she has his ear, but I mean,
To go back to your conspiracy theory, that almost every one of those things you brought up talked about they, and one of the things I see with the Trump administration this time, it was a little different last time, is they is not a cohesive thing. I think he has overlapping and very different people who work for him. So he's got Musk, who has a completely different view of where the world should go, and it should go to Mars, and we should destroy the democracy. And then you got the economic tariff people, and then you got the true crazies and the Laura Loomer people. You've got a group of real pro-China people, and then a separate group of real anti-China people. Like, and there's a variety of, even every day when you see, even just yesterday, they were asking about the tariffs and are they going to stay or not stay? It's all right. Whether the tariffs are going to stay or not stay.
No, she's kicking in your door. Hide the dogs. Let's shoot them first. And if you got a goat, hide that too.
No, I was just saying that even yesterday when the issue of tariffs came up, and this is affecting the markets, like every word that comes out of their mouths, are they going to stay? Are they not going to stay? Are they just to do? Different people in the administration, senior people who conceivably were in the same meetings together, say absolutely the opposite things because there's no coordination. I don't think there is the they. Don't worry about it. My dogs are going to go off pretty soon here too.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to shut them up.
No, it's all right. Stern will cut him off. Like,
hey, stop
Guys, get him talking about. He's got so many theories. Get him talking about all his theories of everything. They're all entertaining.
On what issues? Give me some issues to hit up.
Well, the Social Security, Medicaid. What the what Musk's agenda is. What Stephen
Yeah, I'll
Miller's
lead right
agenda
into them.
is.
This.
All right.
So, Michael, with that lead up and the fact that I think these people do have different agendas, and I think you sort of agree to that. What do you think Elon Musk's agenda is? What is his role here? Why is he tying himself to Donald Trump?
With his fighting with Peter Navarro, can there be only one? I mean, will Musk be out or Navarro be out 2 months from now?
Well, Musk has already said he's leaving, right? Musk is saying that he's going to leave by early May.
Yeah.
I mean, Occam's razor would suggest that Musk is primarily interested in Musk. So does all this random nonsense benefit Elon Musk? And obviously, like, he's destroying all the agencies that would regulate his particular industries. But then why go after Social Security? Why go after USAID? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand it at all. I don't understand how the nation as a whole just sort of accepted the premise of waste, fraud, and abuse. We just sort of were like, oh yeah, well, the government spends too much money and there's too many people in the government and it's doing too many things. And but why did we just accept that premise? I never accepted that premise. It seemed to me that the government in general is probably doing a pretty good job. Like, I know people who work in the government. They work hard. You guys worked in the government. You work hard. You did good work. I'm friends with people who work in the UN World Food Program. All they do is try to feed people. That's their whole thing. Trump just destroyed their program. All the scientists, the meteorologists, the firefighters, like, why did we just accept that premise? I find it infuriating. I also find the premise and narrative around immigration infuriating, that we just accepted
Take the
that
next step,
illegal immigration
Michael.
is
Is that because is it an education thing? Do you think the American public just don't understand their government? Because I mean, I don't accept any of those things.
I think we've been propagandized so effectively by the right wing media empire, I don't know what you want to call it, that at a certain point, I think historically, I think we all know that Americans have a kind of fundamental inbred distrust of government that stems from our origins as a nation. But over the last few centuries, we've asked the government to do more because we needed, as we became more complex economically, militarily, industrially, technologically, we needed people to regulate this stuff, to look at it. Because when we don't, we end up with things like the Great Depression or all the depressions that preceded the Great Depression. Or we end up with a sort of hodgepodge of like laws around who gets educated and who doesn't, and who's allowed to buy real estate and who doesn't, and who can get married and who doesn't. Like, all of these things, we've asked the government to sort of provide some oversight and regulation because it was necessary. And for the American people to just turn around and go, oh yeah, we didn't mean any of that. You didn't think, you haven't thought it through. That's the issue. And so now we're seeing what happens when you think it through and you start axing people left and right. And suddenly the Social Security Administration, you can't get through on the phone. Well, why? Because we're getting rid of the phones. I mean, it's just insanity. And I don't understand what Musk's role is in all of this, to answer your question. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, other than if your goal is to actually rip apart the government, which it seems like that is their goal. But to what end? That's getting back to your original question about the poker. To what end? What are they trying to accomplish? And I don't know that they've articulated it in any way other than to say, we're going to make America great again. I don't know what the fuck that means.
Yeah. I've sort of come to think that this is chaos. That there is no conspiracy here. There is no 3-dimensional, 8-dimensional chess here. We've the American society, and I know people are going to like balk at this. We have it. We currently have it so good. We don't even think we need these things anymore, right? We haven't had people die of measles, like, or measles outbreaks in 20, 30 years. Polio is gone. The Great Recession was the 1930s. We haven't had a land war in Europe in 80 years, right? So, well, why do we still need vaccines? Why do we still need NATO? Why do we still, well, we need them. People don't think they need them because, like, we haven't
They
needed
work.
because they've worked. Exactly right. Yeah, we haven't had a war because we have an alliance. And we also, and this is much more difficult, globalization is a fact, right? It just friggin' is, right? And there are winners and losers, just like there was when we moved from horses to the internal combustion engine, right? If you were in the the horse tending business, you were fucked, right? Henry Ford was the Elon Musk of his day. And when we're moving towards green energy, and I think a lot of people are scared, and I think that has been pushed, but there's no plan other, and this is one conspiracy that I do buy into, Project 2025 with Heritage Foundation. I think they do have a plan. And I think it is, I haven't read the 900-page tome, what this thing all says, because of course I'm reading A Pig Parade is a terrible idea. But 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 what I do see in there, it's scary. It's authoritarian. And sort of finish off my peroration, I think because people are scared, perhaps one thing is that people around Trump are thinking is, yeah, it's like authoritarianism. Let's just give them a simple solution. And that is something we see in history over and over and over again. Whenever you can get, going back to ancient Greece, when you get the Athenians afraid they're going to look for a tyrant, or the Romans, or, let's go to 1933 with the Germans. If you can make people afraid and offer simple solutions, you can have power. And I think that's the pot at the center of the table of this poker game is power. And what they want to do with it, I'm not really sure, because I don't think there's a they. I think there's different days. Peter Navarro, where he wants to go, and where Elon Musk wants to go, and where the Koch brothers want to go, all very sort of, well, it's the right direction, but different places.
Mhm.
But it's a conspiracy. Everybody's looking to control this tired, confused old man at the, nasty old man at the sitting behind the Resolute desk with Elon Musk's kid's booger on it, right? We all saw him wipe his booger on the desk, right?
But I think Musk is different from Project 2025. I think
Yes,
they have
yes,
different,
yes.
and I need to dig into it more, but I think the Musk people, there's some books and things that Peter Thiel and Musk and sort of these South African tech guys have this view that the U.S. government is just a giant insurance company with an army, and the problem with the government is it spends all its money to support the weak in society, and the weak are holding us down. And if we're going to move to a new world that's in Mars and AI driven, we have to actually destroy that and get rid of the weak and have a
Weak
group
are
of
their
white
voters, though.
people who could do things. And so I think his view is different probably than a lot of these other people around Trump.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and like David Sachs, the other South African member of this troika, they're part of this techno utopian slash feudal vision for how they see the next phase of human development playing out. And they've utilized the bizarre writings of Curtis Yarvin, this sort of weird philosopher of the right, as a kind of intellectual undergirding for their project, which basically just amounts to a new feudalism, where you're going to have these tech overlords controlling literal land masses as private, essentially, countries that you can then move to and become a citizen of, I guess. But they will be ruled over by these monarchs, the Peter Thiels, the Elon Musks, the David Saxes of the world, and you will abide by their rules. And presumably you will have freedom of movement, I guess, if you decide you don't like their rules, and then you can go to some other tech oligarch's country. But then what happens when the tech oligarchs start fighting, as they inevitably will? Are they going to maintain their private tech oligarch armies? And I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? And how do they even envision the role of the United States in all of this? And I don't really know, other than maybe it's what you said. They'll be a kind of insurance company with an army, and they'll be there to sort of mediate these disputes so that David Sachs and Elon Musk aren't sending armies of incels to fight with each other. I don't know. None of it makes sense to me.
So on Social Security, something we're seeing, is really bedrock to American society, right? And so, my grandmother had an Irish immigrant. She had a third grade education. She had 4 kids and was pregnant, 3 months pregnant with my father when her husband died of peritonitis. So, she would have starved to death without Social Security. Like an Irish widow lady with a third grade education with 5 kids, 2 in diapers. It's like Roosevelt friggin' saved her, right? And with Social Security back in the early days. But dismantling that. So I just, with that lead in, Musk has called it a Ponzi scheme. Is there money to be made here by, first of all, sort of making Social Security inoperable, right? So that, you cut its funding, cut its IT budget, so it doesn't function anymore, then blame it for being poorly run after you've made it poorly run. And then, of course, the next step is like to privatize it or just not pay it out to, so that the poor people the vast majority of people are then dependent on, I'm not sure on what, on the government or on people like Elon Musk. But sort of what's your sense? Why would tech bros and Musk in particular, why would they be setting their sights on Social Security? Because they must understand something has to come after it, right?
I can only assume what you just said is accurate, that they want to privatize it and that they know that there's tremendous amounts of fees to be made in financial transactions and management and all of this, billions and billions and billions of dollars that they can then line their pockets with to pursue their dreams of going to Mars or whatever the hell they're trying to do. I don't know. I mean, I can only assume that's what they're trying to do. And I think you could make the good faith argument, although I don't think it's necessarily a very good faith argument, but let's just take it at face value, that Social Security could be made more profitable if you invested it in kind of, those funds in sort of the market or sort of riskier investments. But all of that is belied by the events of the last week. If you're relying on the market for your retirement and then you see it crashing 15%, maybe 20% by the time this podcast airs, well, aren't you kind of shooting yourself in the foot? Social Security was never designed to be an investment vehicle. It was designed to be a safety net so that when you reach retirement or you have a disabled child or you are a young widow, you don't have to worry about that money coming in. It was never meant to be a get rich quick scheme. It was meant to supplement whatever retirement savings or pension or later on 401k that you might have. And if you don't have those things, then it will keep you, at the very least, hopefully right out of poverty. And that's enough. That's all it was meant to do. That's all it ought to be doing. And it drives me crazy, having a mother who worked in Social Security for many years. It drives me crazy to see them trying to dismantle literally the most successful social program in our nation's history for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of these things that work against each other. At the same time, we are using up a lot of one of the reasons that the administration said they didn't want to give more weapons to Ukraine is we don't want to use up our weapons that we may need to fight the Chinese. And then now we're using all of these weapons to bomb the Yemenis and the Houthis in Yemen. And the reason supposedly we're doing that, and we know that because we watched the signal chat between the main players who are looking to bomb Yemen, is because we're worried about global traffic through the Suez Canal and the fact that it's disrupting global supply chains. But at the same time, all of the policies of the government in tariffs are destroying the supply chains of the world. So like on one hand, we're doing like more damage to the supply chains and business ability to think forward. And then we're bombing the hell out of a country because we're claiming that that's what we're trying to protect.
I think that's right. And if that doesn't make sense to you, well, then you just don't get it, bro. You just don't get it. Let me ask you, how, as CIA vets, and I'm sure you've already talked about this on your podcast, but because I don't listen to your podcast, I don't know. How bad, from an intelligence perspective, was the Signal Gate thing?
Go first, Jerry.
No, go for it.
It's bad on a number of levels. And the first thing I think of, having been, like Jerry, a senior officer at CIA, is just on the leadership place. Like, if anyone could understand, if you work for an organization and your boss says one thing and does the other thing, that you're saying to everybody in your organization, the tens of thousands of people, is you cannot do this. If you do these things, you will be fired, prosecuted. It's dangerous. It's against national security. You're helping our enemies. And then they do it. And then not only do they do it, but they then lie about it and obfuscate and all these other kinds of things, and then pretend like it's normal. You've just sent a message to your workforce that you're not serious. You don't care about the things that you tell them to do. So on the leadership side, it's bad. On the national security side, the fact that these people have been using private devices, it was a window that opened up to show us that that's happening and let us all think about it. But I think that's been happening for a long time. I think foreign intelligence services have been living off of President Trump's telephone and listening to everything and all the crazy things he's doing, talking to people. Once you can get into someone's telephone, it doesn't matter that you're then using Signal, which is an encrypted thing, because, Signal, if you try to break in between the two encrypted pieces, which is the hard part, it's encrypted, and it would take a sophisticated organization to be able to do that. Can we do it? Sometimes. But if you get one end of that, all the rest of it doesn't matter. And so the fact that these guys, Tulsi Gabbard was traveling in Asia, and they have a guy who was traveling in Moscow, and the other people, and they're using these devices over and over and over, private devices, the kind of thing that they were upset with Hillary Clinton with for years and years. So it's bad. I think it's bad on the national security front. It's bad on the security front. It's bad on the leadership front. And then, of course, the lying is the biggest problem, because leadership should be about character. And if our national security officials show that they have no character and they can't be trusted, that sends another message to our enemies.
Yeah. And once you're in a device, you're in it, right? So they could, then maybe they're talking about Yemen, talking about Iran, talking about the Ukraine negotiations. The Russian, that for us would be like, that was our quest was always to, the grail quest is like, if we can figure out plans and intentions of the leadership, we've done everything. We've done our job. And, the fact that you've got somebody with a phone in Moscow talking about this, you've just simply got to assume that not only did they get his phone, they got everything on it. You got to assume that. And let's be clear about this. People are going to get killed, right? If the Russians got this, and I think that you have to just assume they did, right? If they told the Houthis in advance, just like, hey, get your air defenses ready. Just one phone call. And the Russians do work with the Houthis, right? They don't hit our ships. They do talk back and forth. They trade. They certainly work with the Iranians. This is going to, and you're going to get in your jet and you're going to fly in and they're waiting for you. It's like the Battle of Midway. We knew the Japanese were there. That's why we won the Battle of Midway and then won the war in the Pacific, was because of good intelligence. So this is, there's been so much other shit going on that we've swept that under the carpet, but this is horrific. Now I just want to quick come back on the poker thing. I've just seen right now, like as we're talking, Trump apparently has paused all tariffs, right? It's like, and except for China for 90 days, right?
Well, that's good, because now we have all these new factories that have been built in the last week.
All these new factories have been built for 90 days, right? So I'm saying this is a blink thing. So you're playing poker and he's just like,
urinated on the table.
Here, right? Is like so he's playing poker. He's bluffing, like, don't fuck with me, man. I got 4 aces. And now he's like,
I fold. He's folding. He's folding because the rest of the world and the nation called his bluff. They're like, you want to do this? Okay, we're gonna crash the markets. We're going to create a new Asian pact between China and Japan and South Korea. We're gonna get Europe to retaliate. Like he folded. He folded because it's stupid. And I
So
guess,
what are
I
the other
assume, I
players
assume he's
around
going
the
to
table
declare
thinking here?
victory and say
Yeah.
everybody's kissing my ass and everybody wants to negotiate so we can hold the tariffs for 90 days. But the problem, and look, what do I know? I'm a jerk on I'm a college dropout who believes in UFOs. So what do I know? But it seems like
Well,
uh,
Mike,
as an economic, how dare you? As an economic matter, how, as a business person, do you project out for the next 3 months, 6 months, year, if you don't know every 90 days if Trump is going to be slapping tariffs on all the nations that you're trying to import your goods from? Or are you going to say, well, maybe I need to start investing in the US and I'm going to spend $2 billion creating, new factories and infrastructure, and then 4 years from now, some other dude gets in and it's just like, yeah, these tariffs make no sense. We're going back to free trade. Like, how do you plan anything if you're a business person right now? I have no idea. Thankfully, I'm an idiot about business and money, so I don't have to worry
We are
about
too.
that.
but let's talk politics just for a second. So Trump is just apparently folded, right? It was 90 days. After 90 days, they'll work something out. They'll give him a few crumbs. So given that we're going to actually have fair elections in 2026, right? I mean, which is not a given, but let's run with that, right? Fair elections. So, with this, fuck uppery, where do Republicans, like, if they don't want to lose the House and the Senate, like, your Fox News. Let's pretend Rupert Murdoch is going to live this long, right? And how do you spin this as a media personality yourself? How do you spin this as a win to the poll?
It's a huge win. Are you kidding me?
Oh, okay.
This has been an incredible win for the American people. What have we seen over the last few days? We've seen every single nation on earth, including the ones that are only populated by penguins, picking up the phone and calling the greatest president who has ever lived and said, "Let's make a deal, Mr. President." All of them.
Yeah.
Every single, even the Pelicans had tears in their eyes, just rolling down their eyes as they say, "You're absolutely right, Mr. President. Not only were you right, we have been unfair, and we want to do whatever we can to ensure moving forward that America is our biggest booster and friend and ally, and we're just going to write checks to you." And the American people are getting richer than you can possibly imagine, richer than they've ever been because of this president's foresight and bold leadership.
Mr. Fox News reporter, you just said yesterday that these tariffs were going to stay in place for years so that we would fundamentally change our system so that manufacturing comes back to the United States. How do you say that today is something completely different and you're saying it's the right thing to do?
You in the fake media are so obsessed with this president's command of the American economy that you can't wrap your heads around all the good things that he's doing for the American people. Look at what the stock market is doing right now, and you will see the bold leadership that this man has performed. And yes, we need to bring back manufacturing to these shores, and all of our conversations with our partner nations will ensure that they invest right here in America.
And more importantly, it is wrong that trans athletes are like fencing with real women. I think that let's talk about the really important things about which bathroom you get to use.
That's right.
All this economic stuff, don't worry about it. Don't worry your pretty little head, baby. It's all about trans athletes.
I have to say, John, just acting as a White House spokesperson / Fox News analyst, it's very easy.
Yeah, I think you'd be good at it.
Yeah.
Squirrel. You should try that, because if you're on CNN, no one's watching it. You got to get over on Fox News.
No, they're definitely not watching on CNN, but I don't know. Yeah, it's easy to lie if you just don't care.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is if you have one talking point and it's just say whatever it is to make the president look good, Whether it's consistent with yesterday or 5 minutes ago, does no
Consistency is
difference.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really.
And when you're cornered, attack the questioner.
Yeah, that's right. And what's amazing to me is how few. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not fair, but you'd think a good chunk of the American people would see through this over.
Yeah, but how many of us have been saying that for the last 10 years, that the American people will never fall for this garbage, this utter nonsense. And
They
yet,
just must not pay attention enough. Like people are busy doing their own thing, and they only check in from time to time. And if someone just says something like, "Oh, okay," and but
I do like your theory about how the reason we're so willing to get rid of things is because they work so well. And so you don't understand that these things are sort of happening in the background. It's my theory about how Trump got elected in the first place, because Obama did a good job. And they were like, and so the America was like, well, if this guy who came out of nowhere and he's just a black dude, if he can do the job, then why wouldn't we elect this genius billionaire businessman? He'll do it 10 times better. I do think a good president makes it look easy. And so you think anybody can do it. And then you end up with a clown like this.
there's always been this view that for years that have been like, the government needs to be run more efficiently, like a businessman. America's about business. And I don't think previous presidents, even ones that we thought did well, communicated effectively to the American people that the government is different than a business, and it's different because it's in support of the American people. Like the U.S. government is set up for fairness, not efficiency necessarily. So if the Defense Department wants to buy a new thing, it has to put out bids and give everybody an opportunity to bid. Everybody could do. They can't just say, "Michael, I like you. Your company is good. I'm going to buy your thing, and I'm not going to look at so I can move fast." And the same thing with Elon Musk. Like, yes, he can blow up rockets. I can move fast and destroy things. But if you're in the U.S. government and in NASA, you can't just blow up rockets. In other words, there are fundamental different things. And it's not just efficiency and speed. It's other things, fairness and things that are around it. So the business thing has never really been the proper way to look at it. Yes, we want our government to be effective and more efficient, but it is going to be slower than potentially businesses. But businesses go out of business
Right.
all the time, and the United States can't go out of business.
Right.
And the other thing that sort of drives me crazy about that analogy is the subtext of it, which is that if the American government were run as a business, it would then be, in a sense, profitable. And we hear this kind of talk when they talk about the post office or Amtrak or any number of services that the government provides for the common good, that if we just privatized it, well, the government or whomever could be making money hand over fist with this stuff. But that is not the purpose of government. The purpose of the post office is not to make money. It is to provide postal service for the American people at an affordable price. And that's just a common good.
Because if you wanted to make money with the post office, you wouldn't send things to these towns with 3 people in them way out in the middle of nowhere, right? You'd say the effective thing to do is go to bigger places and cut off these smaller places. But the postal services said, we're going to make sure that every American, no matter where they live, can get mail.
Yeah, and you can extrapolate that to the whole of government, because in a sense, when you're saying you want the government to be more efficient, in a way, what you're saying is we want it to, it's a rough analogy, but we want it to make more money, or we want it to do it. We want it to do more with the money that we provide it. And that is a natural and justifiable feeling to have. But if you don't understand what the government actually does or how it does it, you're not in a position to say we just need to cut everything. You're just not in that position. And the Democrats, I agree with you, have never made the case for, or at least in my lifetime, for government. Why we have these things, why they're important, why how your life will be materially worse without these things. Like the fact that so many people think or thought that the American government spends something like 20% of its annual budget on foreign aid is maddening to me. We pay a penny, less than a penny on the dollar for all of that foreign aid, all of that stuff that we were doing, feeding people, saving lives, preventing AIDS, education, uh, uh, helping women, get out from under the thumbs of their uh, the men in their lives and the patriarchal cultures that were controlling them. Like all of that cost, relatively speaking, so little and provided us so much in return. And nobody was making that argument. And I don't understand why.
Michael Lewis was making the argument better than the U.S. government was. He's the best person to listen to on that.
Michael Lewis
Going
can
back in history, I think generationally, our at least my parents trusted the government because their experience with the government was helped us out of the Great Depression, right? Social Security. We won World War II. We, we won the Cold War, and I really think it all changed when Ronald Reagan came in, although he didn't mean it this way, but he said, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. And everybody laughed. But if you're from FEMA, you are from the government, you are there to help, right? Or if you're making sure that people aren't driving in unsafe vehicles, or the food you eat isn't poison, or there's no insider trading, the courts work, the police aren't like bribable like they are in the third world. They are from the government. They are here to help. And I think this is yes, I think this is something inside of the American psyche to be not disrespectful, but distrustful of government. And I think that in its measure is good. But like anything else, when you take it to the nth degree, you sort of get to nihilism. But Mike, before we go, I did want you to comment on a conspiracy theory that I do buy into, but I find very difficult to articulate. So in all the countries in the world, to include places with just penguins, or poor little Lesotho or Bhutan, they all got schwacked with tariffs, but not all. Russia didn't get hit with a tariff, right? And they sort of like threw that off as like, well, we're negotiating. Well, we're also negotiating with Ukraine and like other places. So what do you think the deal is with? I mean, I've
I've
got my own
proposed my wild-eyed
theories
theory. I have
with Russia and Trump. What is it? There's something. Everybody knows there's something. Everybody senses it. But, John has written articles on it. In the intelligence community, we all sit around. Congressmen have speculated on it. There is friggin' something. Maybe someday, this we'll figure out who the grassy knoll P-tape is or something like this. But, to mix my conspiracy theory metaphors. But what do you think? What do you think we got?
I guess I don't know if that I ever was, but I guess I'm no longer of the opinion that there's any sort of compromise or anything like that, because Trump is so shameless. Like, what difference would it make at this point? Like, he could go his own way. Like, what possible information could they have on him that would in any way damage him? I don't think there's any.
But it would suggest that he needed help to win these elections. It wasn't just himself, right? So he can't live with that.
He has to switch sides in his head, which is something we see like CIA assets do, right? I mean, they feel themselves to be part of like the United States team now, even though they're a Russian or an Iranian scientist, right? I don't know, but sorry, continue. I cut you off.
So I'm at a loss. I mean, none of it is it as simple as he looks at the way Putin runs his nation. He understands that Putin is getting a kickback on every dollar that these oligarchs earn. He understands that Putin is arguably the richest man in the world, or one of the richest men in the world, and he just wants that. He said it over and over and over again. I want generals who will salute me, and I want Hitler's generals, and I want people to stand up when he said all of this stuff. I think it might just be the sort of theatrics of power and the image of it. And I think he's sort of enraptured with this idea of the strong man. And if he could be the strong man of the strongest country that the world has ever known, I could see that holding some appeal for him.
Let me ask one more, if you don't mind, if you have time. You've written a little bit about Trump and a third term.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Why is that being surfaced now? What does that mean?
And I know you guys know this, but your viewers or your listeners, and they probably know this too, but clearly the playbook for this regime is to maintain power at all costs. And the question is why, and we've talked on that a little bit, but I think Trump understands and the Trump people understand that whatever that goal is, whatever they're aiming for, cannot be accomplished in this term fully. You can put the pieces in motion, probably. You can make it a lot more likely that this project will succeed in 4 years, but it may not be possible to sort of execute everything they want to do in that time. And they know, and Trump certainly believes, and it's probably correctly, that the movement falls apart without him. That's probably true. And so if that's the case, then you've got to figure out a way to keep this guy in power. And that obviously feeds into his own narcissism and ego. And so they're going to try any novel theory that they can think of to get around the Constitution. And I'm not convinced they won't be successful. I'm not convinced that John Roberts and whoever else is going to somehow find some sort of narrow legal ruling like they did with Gore v. Bush, or Bush versus Gore, whatever that was, to sort of allow some weird precedent to sit that'll allow him to serve, or he'll do like a Putin Medvedev thing where he gets Vance to be the president and he's the vice president, and then Vance resigns. I don't know, but I don't think he's going to go quietly, and he said that. He's been talking about this since his first administration, and I don't see any indication that he's at all joking. And he said in recent days he's not joking.
Good.
So it'll be really 2026. I'm convinced has got to save us, right? They've got to lose the House and the Senate. That's the only way in investigations. I think the one thing I would add to that, though, is I think he doesn't want to go to jail. I think he knows he's guilty of a lot of shit, and they can.
So he knows that, and they all know that 2026, at least, if the elections were held today, would be a bloodbath for them. So you got to figure they're already anticipating that. So what are they going to do?
Right.
What are they going to do?
I think there's a conspiracy there. I don't know what it is yet.
They got cheat.
It's a hell of a pig parade. So you start coming with the book, man. People need to go out and buy a pig parade is a terrible idea. Right?
Do you mind? Could we sell those shirts through Mission Implausible podcast? Like, because we're having a tough time making any money.
Want to start up the merch? Feel free.
All right. Thank you. We'll put your little name at the bottom.
That's right. We'll split it with you. Yeah. All
right. Well, Michael, awesome to talk to you as always. I do follow your Substack. I think it's really fascinating. I'm amazed how much you're able to do on the TV and do on your stand-up and do on your writing and all these things together. So, but thank you for all of that. We're all sort of trying to push in the right direction here, and we hope we can have you on again.
Anytime. I'm mostly unemployed, even though I'm on TV and I write the Substack. I'm mostly unemployed. So